that you've been with me from the beginning, and really, you know, you heard what I was up to, and yay, there we go. Okay, good.
Yeah.
So I would just, you know, share just a little bit about your background, share why on God's green earth would you choose to step into not only being a mission ambassador, but, you know, you've taken on a leadership role inside this organization, which I am eternally grateful for. So let's give people a little bit of your background, what you do for a living, and then why you chose mission ambassador.
Sure. So my name is Daniela, and I'm originally from Venezuela. I've been living here for over 15 years now. I'm married, and we have a few furry babies. And what I do for a living, I work for a translation and interpretation company. And we just bridge conversations of people from their language to English. And I'm very passionate about that. And why am I a mission ambassador? Well, it turns out that I had no clue what human trafficking was until I met you. And it really hit me when I saw the movie Trapped in the Trade that you directed and produced, because I really got to see that when I was young, I could have been a victim. And that's not something that I knew. That's something that was really shocking to me. Right. And, you know, I really, like, I'm not a mom, not yet though, but I do have, I have nieces and nephews, and my friends have children, and my neighbors have children. And it really, I'm very passionate about children and what their future looks like. And I was like, you know what, someone needs to do something about that. And I was not going to be one of those people, well, someone else needs to do something about that. It was like, I will do something about that. And it was very easy to get enrolled into this program of mission ambassadors. And then I really got how I love to empower people. And that's how I turned out in a leadership role with Paving the Way.
Because you do love to empower people. I want to acknowledge a couple more people that have joined us on live. Nathan and Madeline, hey y'all, and Alicia, and I want to make sure I pronounce your name right. I'm going to say Moran is watching too. So we've got, you know, we keep our audience keeps growing. So, you know, the first myth, I and you kind of touched on it, that you could have been trafficked when you were younger. And so let's debunk the myth. Trafficking doesn't affect me, right? I live in a lovely neighborhood, or, you know, I don't go bar hopping, or, you know, there's all kinds of conversations people have in their heads about what puts someone more at risk.
Yes.
So, you know, trafficking doesn't affect me is the myth we're going to debunk. So let's just take a look at that, shall we? So let's go back to where you said you were almost trafficked. Like, what happened?
Well, I used to go out with my friends, and I think that at one point I was very naive. You know, you go to a club, you're with your friends, a guy offers you a drink, and if he's cute, especially, you say yes. You know, we're gonna dance, like, no big deal. That's the world I lived in, and it was like, it really was no big deal. And then it really hit me, like, how many times I've been out there, you know, and this could have happened to me, like, you know, like Samantha, for example. And it really hit me, like, it can happen anytime, anywhere, and virtually under any circumstance. It could happen at someone's home party. You know, I've been, when I was 16, 17, 18, how many home parties did I go to? Right. Many. And, you know, we're like naive, me and my friends, and it was all fun and games. And I noticed that I've been lucky that it really was all fun and games.
Yeah, and because you're not aware, so you don't even know what to look for. If someone was being kind, or someone was buying you a drink, you know, out of the goodness of their heart, and in reality, they might have had nefarious thoughts before they bought your drink.
Yeah,
and you had no idea.
And of course, there were the times where it was like, oh my God, that guy, it's kind of like creepy. But what I didn't know, it's not the creepy ones that we need to beware about, beware, you know, because if everybody that was up to something bad had a creepy face, we'd all be safe.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it's those that we don't anticipate that there's something going on there.
Well, and
Uh,
you know, and I think you had shared something about one of your friends had a scare. Like something had happened to one of your friends. I was talking to one of my neighbors and she asked me how things were going. She, you know, she knows what I do. And she was like, Jan, thank you so much for what y'all do. And I'm like, you're welcome. You know, just, and you could tell it was coming from a heartfelt space. And she said she and a few friends of hers way back when, she's English, they were going to go on spring trip to Greece and Turkey. And she said, I'll go to Greece. I'm not going to Turkey. And they're like, well, if you're not going to go to Turkey, then don't come. Well, both of those girls left and they never came back. Now you're talking probably close to 30 years later, and it still affects her heart. She knows that that possibly she could have been one of the girls that didn't come back.
yes.
So, you know, so there's this hole in her heart that still affects her today about those two girls missing. So, and I know you had shared a couple of things about some of your friends. So I'd love to hear a little bit about you and like, and what that, and I think that kind of led you into why you're so passionate about this.
Yeah. So, well, I have friends who met guys, and all of a sudden everything is like looking good and looking nice, and they're going to very nice dinners, and now they're going to, you know, the theater, the movies, like really normal stuff. And all of a sudden it's like, hey, you know what, have you ever thought about being a dancer? And they'll be like, what? And then this like coming out of nowhere, it was like, and we're like, what? No, 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 that guy's bad news, you know, you have to get rid of them. And fortunately, and this is, you know, one of the things that I think we had on our favor, because, you know, I'm talking about me and my friends. It's like we talked about everything, and we had a very open friendship. And I get that not everybody has that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there were things that maybe we didn't talk to about to our parents, and that's also a key. You know, you don't want to get in trouble, and we
Right.
would, you know, tell each other, hey, this is what happened, what do you think, blah blah blah. But then what about people who are introverts? What about people who are not very fond in these friendships, or who have friendships that don't have their best interest in them?
Right.
So for us, it was like, okay. And for me, it was like, oh, no, no, that guy's was new. But we never even thought about, you're going to be human trafficked. We
Right.
thought, you know, that's no, like, why would you do that for a living? You have all these great things going on for you. But then it's like, what if, you know, any of us thought, oh, well, that might be a good idea because I don't have a job right now, or I'm dealing with all this stuff and I can get a job. You know, it could have led to, you know, and the funny thing is that then we learned that that person ended up in jail. We don't know why,
Wow.
but I can only imagine. So it's like, when I saw Samantha's movie and I really connecting the dots from back in the day, I'm like, you know what? We were very fortunate, me and my friends, but what about other people?
Yeah.
You know, and it really affects me, and it affects me because I live in this community. I live in this community.
Yeah, you do.
I live here, you know, we're wanting to adopt children. It really affects me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it affects me, it affects my neighbors, it affects, so, you know, for me.
It affects you here. You know, it's like that regret or that guilt that you carry with you that I could have done something and I didn't, or I didn't know what to do. You know, I have no idea what action to take. If I suspect something, what do I do?
This
And
is so great that
yeah,
you're saying that, Jan,
yeah,
because frankly, like, honestly speaking, back in the day, you know, someone else is in a weird situation where they, you know, like, anytime I could tell there was something off about someone, you're out, you're out, you're no longer in my circle of friends. And then I'm thinking, what about people who are really going through something that it looks weird for them, that it's off, and we're not even aware that we can't even do something.
yeah, yeah. So that leaves that guilt and regret over here.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's like I could have and I should have. And you know this, we've been out talking to people for a really long time, you know, several years, and people come up afterwards and they're like, you know, now that I know what that looks like, I remember a time. And it was, you know, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years later, and they still feel guilty.
Yeah.
They knew something was wrong and they didn't know what to do. And so trafficking does affect everyone in multiple different ways. Because the other thing that most people don't know, right, is it, and if you can look up ACE scores, adverse childhood experiences, and clearly being sexually assaulted and sexually abused is an adverse childhood experience. It affects your health. And you can look up the impact it has on somebody's health. So you're talking long-term health issues that are not only affect that person being trafficked, but that also affects the family, and that it also affects the healthcare system.
Yeah, there are a lot of health issues nowadays that are being linked to trauma suffered by people who've been through these type of situations.
Absolutely.
So
there's a couple more people. So Matt Sadler's on watching us. So is Aaron Brown and Donna. I know. And Carolyn and Tori and Damika. So, you know, we keep adding people that we both know. It's really cool. And same with Madeline. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. So now the other piece, the other half of that myth is, it's not my problem. I don't need to get involved. You know, and when we go out and we talk to youth, you know, they can finish our sentences. You know, snitches get stitches, get thrown in ditches, right? And they're like, well, that's not my business. That's, you know, that's something happening in their house. And you and I have talked about in the Latin culture, which you will address next week.
Yeah.
But in some cultures, it's like, you don't air your dirty laundry.
Yeah.
You know, so who am I to get involved if I hear something happening in my neighborhood or I see something happening? Who am I to get involved? Well, it's a life you're saving.
Yeah. And this is so great that you're saying that, because mostly we grow up, you know, don't get into anybody else's business. And what's happening with that, not only within the human trafficking conversation, but it really creates a disconnection between human beings. Now, when you are able to transform that conversation to actually, if you see something, you say something. If you notice something, if in your heart, you know, someone's in trouble or someone's not well, you speak out, you say something. That's what, first of all, that's what makes us human, what connects us. And then what's amazing is that when we teach that to children, they start opening up. Like, oh my God, and this happened to me. And then I heard that happened to someone else. And then they start actually sharing and teaching the parents about it. And there's this aliveness that comes into them where you're like, that's what's actually natural, you know, because naturally, we like to help people. We want to make a difference as human beings.
We do.
And transforming that conversation from, oh no, don't get in nobody's business. What's the worst that can happen if you get with somebody's business? That they don't talk to you and then they resolve the problem? Ain't that worth it when you save a life like that? Who cares if they don't talk to you? But
Yep.
you put the seed on, and more often than not, it really turns out.
It does. You were with us when we were doing the training at Rock Lake Middle, and we went back and did the, research, the follow-up research 5 months later. 65% of these kids shared what they learned. These are middle schoolers. 65% of these kids shared what they learned with their parents or a friend. Now, anybody that's got a middle schooler, to have a middle schooler actually talk and have a conversation with you, that alone is a miracle.
Yes.
But to have them have that kind of conversation with you, that's like blessings upon blessings upon blessings. And that's the one thing that, because this conversation is geared towards parents. Kids can listen to this, but it's really geared towards parents, is teaching our kids that if you feel something's off, if one of your friends, it just doesn't feel right, they're different, there's something different about them and you can't quite put your finger on it, you got to say something to an adult.
Yeah.
Because that one thing could save a life. Now, it may not be human trafficking, right? It could be, bullying. It could be online bullying. It could be abuse. It could be some form of abuse at home or online abuse.
Yeah.
Or there's sickness or illness in the household. I mean, right now people are dealing with a lot of stuff. And to be able to share with our kids to go, no, we want you to.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sorry interrupting you, but one thing that I want to do is really calling to parents into listening to what your children have to say. I know we're very busy, there's a lot going on, but there's something about children, they don't have filters.
Nope, they don't.
And you don't want them to have those filters with you. Like, you want to keep the conversation open. Like, if they come with an issue, they're not going to be in trouble. There may be some consequences if they did something wrong, but keep the conversation open, because that's the only way to really know what's going on with them and what could be going on with their peers.
Yes, absolutely. So we've debunked trafficking doesn't affect me. We've debunked, I don't need to get involved, right? The other myth is, I'm only one person. What kind of difference can I really make? And you and I both know when we share the film Trapped, and at the end of the film, it leaves people in a particular emotional space.
Yeah.
And one of those spaces is helplessness.
Yes.
It's like, I feel helpless. I don't know what to do. So let's debunk that myth. Shall we?
Yes, let's do that. So yes, every time we don't know what to do, we tend to go the other way. I'm going to ignore the problem or the issue. And what actually we do at Paving the Way, it's educate and empower people on what to do. What to do when you see the signs. What do you do when you're looking at something happening? There is something that you can actually do, and you can do 3 things. First one is share about this issue. I know it's not an easy conversation, but the more we share about it, the more comfortable we are, and then the more people we get to talk to, the more of those seeds of knowledge and empowerment will start spreading around. And then we can actually, when we think that something's going on, and it may be human trafficking, we can call the national hotline for human trafficking. And the number is 888-3737, 888. And I'll say that again, 888-3737, 888. And you can call anytime. It's 24/7. You can call, tell them what you saw, what you're suspicious about, and you don't have to tell them your name or your information. It's all anonymous, and then they will investigate. And what's so great about the line is that they investigate all the calls. Don't think that, oh, well, it's just a suspicion. They might not investigate. Oh, no, they investigate every call. And it's better than that. Let's say it was a suspicion, it was not true. It's better that to discover that than actually not make the call, and then you start wondering, what if I could have done something?
That's the regret that we talked
about. Regret.
You know, and every survivor we've ever worked with, every survivor warrior we've talked with, they're like, I wish someone had called. You know, so we have no idea what the result of that phone call is going to be. We do know that we now took an action. There's a couple more people on here I want to say hi to. Nancy Elder's on. I know, Nancy and Daphne and Carla's watching. So I just thank you all for tuning in for this important conversation. And there's something that we addressed on Monday, but I want to bring it up inside this conversation is regarding boys, especially because Maddie, I know you're on here and you've got sons. About 30% of the children that are trafficked are boys. So for anybody thinking that boys can't be trafficked, not true. And they're trafficked for a couple of different things. Labor is the primary one, and then also sex. Now, one of the things, if you've got kids at home that are gamers, in particular boys, if they're gamers, there's an app called Discord. That's where two young men were recruited by a woman online. They started gaming, and then they went to Discord, and they recruited them into trafficking. And they rescued them last January in St. Petersburg. You can look it up. You can type in human trafficking, two boys, St. Petersburg, and you can look up the article. And I want to make sure that parents get, you know, I have a very close friend that was severely sexually assaulted when he was young. And he told his mom, and his mom didn't believe him. And that did more damage than actually the abuse, because the one person that you're supposed to trust, that's supposed to take care of you, didn't believe him. And so when we coach parents and we talk to parents about, you know, if your child comes to you and says, hey, so-and-so's bullying me, or so-and-so touched me inappropriately, you sit down and you believe them. And when we are in front of children, we also say, if you share something, be prepared for a reaction. We're parents. We're going to have we're going to react. We're not reacting to you. We're reacting to the fact that someone's harming you. And it's our job to keep you safe. So, yep, we're going to react. Don't take it personally. Give us a minute, because we're human too. Right? Yeah. So that one person, you're one person that can save one life. And, you know, we've educated over 13,000 youth in the past 3.5 years. And we know that our education makes a difference. We know we've saved at least 13,000 lives, if not more. You know, if you do some math, they talk to their friends, they talk to their family. You know, that's the kind of difference that one person can make.
Definitely.
Yeah. So, okay, our last myth is about fair trade. You know, a lot of people, I was on a call earlier today and we were brainstorming about different ways that we can reach out to other markets. And someone said to me, you know, Jan, you should really talk to people in the fashion industry, you know, because there's sweatshops and, you know, a lot of girls are abused in the modeling industry. And, you know, I know people in acting, and, you know, they say they're paid for 8 hours of work, but they're only paid for 6. And, you know, so there is some abuse inside there. And I hadn't really thought about it. And there is actually a website. It's called fairtrade.org. And you can go on and look to see if the products you're buying are fair trade. And what that means is they're actually working either direct, you know, like Starbucks does direct to farm. You know, that's why you've got farmers markets. You're buying directly from the person growing your fruit and vegetables. I've got a really good friend, and she'll be on next week, Katie and Jonathan from Beatty Girls. They have a safe house down in the Dominican Republic. They make jewelry, and they use ethical Larimar, the blue stone. I'm going to put it up close to the camera. The blue stone is ethical Larimar. So why is that important that it's ethical? Well, they take care of the earth. They pay people, yay, thanks, D'Amica. They pay people fair wages to get the stone. And then Katie actually uses a stone. She'll share more about this next week in Spanish. Then they actually take the stone and they make jewelry, and they pay the girls a fair wage. And these are girls that they've rescued from both human trafficking and domestic abuse. So really, as one person, you can actually vote with your wallet and buy products only from fair trade companies. And that actually can make a difference in the local economy as well as the economy overseas or wherever your product is made. And there's a whole list of food products, goods, wares. Almost every time before I purchase something, both online or in person, I look up the company to make sure it uses fair trade, because I don't want to feed that industry. So there you go. So fair trade does make a difference. You can look it up online and, shop with your wallet, because that will make a difference too. All right, so there's our myths that we've debunked. Trafficking doesn't affect me. Hey, Desiree. Trafficking doesn't affect me. Oh, the website again? Yeah, D'Amica just posted it in the thread. I believe it's fairtrade.org. I could be wrong. Can you look that up, Daniela, while you're sitting in front of your computer? Yeah, there's several companies that aren't on it that you wish were. And that's okay, because you can use your voice and let them know you want them to use fair trade. And hey, Mary, I'm so glad you joined us as well tonight. Got a couple more minutes, so if anybody has any questions in the thread, feel free to toss them in. We've got about 3 more minutes before we sign off for the evening. I will tell you about tomorrow night and next week. Tomorrow night I've got Dr. Phil Toll with us. He is the Vice President of Residential Care for Aspire, and he works very closely with human trafficking survivors. And so we're going to debunk several more myths about human trafficking and about working with survivors. And yay, Renata put it in there. Yep. Oh, fairtradeamerica.org. Really great. There's also an international one, because people have heard about Nestle and people have heard about other products. So we just want to, we can vote with our wallets for sure. Great. Okay, if anybody doesn't have any other questions, Daniela, let's talk about next week and what we're doing in Spanish.
Oh yeah, so we're debunking the myths of human trafficking in Spanish. Mm-hmm. So everyone that speaks Spanish has access to this conversation in their own language. And, my commitment is that everybody that I have access to have this information, to get educated, to know what to do mostly. And you don't have to go out and talk to everybody, but, talk to your family, to your children, your spouses, maybe your neighbors, start a conversation. So that's what we're doing next week.
And we're starting on Monday. We've got 4 guests. Jose Ramirez, who works for Florida Department of Law Enforcement, will be on Monday. Tomas Lars will be back on Tuesday. And, he's the CEO and Executive Director of United Abolitionists. Joe Lopez, who is running for Orange County Sheriff. He's been in law enforcement for a very long time, so he'll address locally. And then Katie Goodkin Morales and her husband, Jonathan, will be on talking about, survivors, the impact, myths. There's a lot of myths we're going to debunk with them, because they have a safe house down in the Dominican Republic. And they saw things that, her story's fascinating. They saw things that she couldn't even imagine. She started off building houses, and stuff transpired from there. So you're going to want to send all your Spanish speaking, Latin originating friends on here. We're going to host it on my page, and then we'll share it on Daniela's page. I'm just going to moderate and be like over in the corner and listening to them talking because I don't speak Spanish.
But you understand a lot.
I do understand.
You speak more than 6 months ago too. So
yeah, true. Very true. All right, y'all. If you have no questions, you know, you can always private message me. You can, you know, Daniela's on list linked on here too. You can always message her as well. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for being a part of this conversation. It really does make a difference having people to talk to. And y'all have a great night. Bye.
have a good night. Bye.